Welcome back, students. In last video, we had discussed various salient features of kingdom Monera. We should recall that the organisms belonging to kingdom Monera were all unicellular in nature, right? They were microscopic and they were the prokaryotic organisms, which do not have proper nuclear membrane. So, the DNA here is naked. Second is that the DNA or genetic material do not have any histone proteins that are associated with it. Therefore, the DNA or genetic material here is called as nucleoid. Another thing which we should recall, that these organisms do not have any membrane bound organelles. So such organisms were grouped into one kingdom, kingdom Monera. So today we will discuss the next kingdom, that is kingdom Protista. Okay? Kingdom Protista is also known to be kingdom of unicellular eukaryotes. Unicellular indicates that they are microscopic, right? And they are eukaryotic in nature. So that is, the DNA or genetic material is surrounded by the nuclear element. So there is proper nucleus that is present in these cells. Also, they will have membrane bound organelles which carry out various metabolic activities, right? Kingdom Protista is the link between the plants, animals and fungi. We know that from kingdom Protista, some of the Protists gave rise to fungi, some gave rise to plantae and animalia. So, to start with the salient features of this kingdom, they are single cell, microscopic and eukaryotic in nature. Genetic material is organized in nucleus. That means they have well-defined nucleus in these organisms. The cell wall may be present in some organism or may not be present. We should remember that in prokaryotic organism, the cell wall was made up of peptidoglycan, right? Whereas here the cell wall possesses cellulose. The next feature is locomotion. There are different modes of locomotion depending on the type of appendages they are having. So in some organisms they have flagella. Flagella is the protoplasmic appendage which help in the movement of these species. Okay, so it is long thread-like structure. Next is cilia. Cilia are numerous and they are small fibers-like structures arise all over the body. Here the cilia acts like the men rowing the boat. So the cilia will move towards the one direction and therefore these organisms are very fast in their movement. They can also reverse back, turn around or tumble in the water. Next is pseudopodia. These organisms are little slower in movement. So here the protoplasmic outgrowth will form these feet-like structures. So also they are called as false feet, okay, for their movement. Next is about some organisms follow wriggling. Now what do we mean by wriggling? It is like worm-like movement which will take place, okay, like this. Few organisms will have mucilage propulsion, wherein at one direction some secretion of mucilage will take place and opposite direction the organism will move. An organism wherein it will release the mucilage, okay, opposite direction. Next is mode of nutrition. Nutrition can be autotrophic or heterotrophic type. Under autotrophic, they can be photosynthetic in nature. So they can prepare their own food. They have chlorophyll pigment in them. Heterotrophic are of three kinds. Holozoic. We know that holozoic is the ingestive mode of nutrition. Saprophytic. Saprophytic are those organisms which will depend on the decayed material, right? So those are saprophytes. And some of these organisms are parasitic in nature, wherein it will harm the host and they will survive. The next feature is reproduction. It can occur either asexually or sexually. Under asexual reproduction, fission and cyst formation takes place in several organisms. In fission, the main parental cell will give two daughter cells. These two daughter cells are exactly identical to the parent. So, the DNA or genetic material in the parental cell undergo duplication, get separated from each other, and the daughter cells will be formed here. So, since these daughter cells are identical to the parental cell, they are also called as clones. In some of the Protista, there is one more type of fission which takes place, and that we call it as multiple fissions. As the name says, multiple fission, that indicates that many such cells will be formed within a particular covering, and during favorable condition, these cells will be released out. Okay? And they will grow independently. Here, the fission is called as binary fission since only two daughter cells are formed. Okay? Another type of asexual reproduction is cyst formation. So here, during unfavorable condition, the cyst or tough covering will be formed around the cell. So as the favorable environmental condition arise, that time the cyst will be broken off and the organism will be released. Next mode of reproduction is sexual. So in sexual reproduction, again there are two ways: syngamy and cell fusion. So what do we mean by syngamy? There are two processes which takes place in these organisms: meiosis, and second is fusion of gametes. Okay, there are two types of cell division takes place in any organism. Okay, that is mitosis and meiosis. So here one cell will get divided into two cells, and these cells are exactly similar to the parental cell, same as that of clone which we had discussed. So here in mitotic division, suppose we take example of human. In each cell we have 46 chromosomes. Okay. So when the cell division takes place, we know that DNA gets duplicated and two cells are formed here. So each daughter cells will also have 46 chromosomes in them. But what is the difference with respect to meiotic division? Here, the cell having 46 number of chromosomes will undergo this division to give 4 cells or 4 daughter cells. Okay? These daughter cells here are called as gametes. Okay? Each gamete will have or receive half the number of chromosomes. So each daughter cells will have here 23 number of chromosomes. That means the number of chromosomes are reduced to half, right? Earlier, the parental cell had 46 number of chromosomes, but now the gametic cell or gametes have 23 number of chromosomes, right? So such gametes we call it as haploid. Okay? So such gametes or cells we call it as haploid and will designate it as small n. Whereas here, since the number of chromosomes remains the same, there is no reduction here. So therefore, such cells are called as diploid. Okay? And we will designate it as 2n. So we should remember about these two cell cycles that takes place in the organism. In detail, you all will be learning in the chapter cell cycle. Okay? But right now you have to remember only this part of cell cycle. So in kingdom Protista, the organisms release the haploid gametes. Union of these gametes is called as syngamy, and it will form one cell that is called as zygote, and this cell is diploid in nature. Next is about self-fusion, wherein the conjugation, like we had seen in prokaryotic organism, here too it takes place. Okay? Here the organisms will undergo the meiotic division within the cell. So there is the nuclear division which is taking place, and then there will be the exchange of the DNA or genetic material between the two species will take place. Okay, and they will get detached from each other. So that is the cell fusion or conjugation also takes place in these organisms. The historians have divided these organisms into three different types. Protista algae, these are exactly similar to the plants. So therefore, for some biologists, they call these organisms are plant-like, and for some biologists, these all organisms are only protista. Okay. Second is animal-like protozoans. Okay, they have some features like animal, and slime molds which are fungus-like organisms. So therefore, it was predicted that kingdom Protista are the one which have link between plant, animal and fungi. Okay. So we will see one by one these three types of organisms. Okay. So Protista algae, or they are photosynthetic in nature. So these are divided into three categories: Chrysophytes, Dinoflagellates and Euclides. Okay. So Chrysophytes, they have diatoms species and golden brown algae, also called as desmids. Okay. So Chrysophytes, they are present in fresh water as well as in the marine ecosystem. Okay. They just float along with the water current, and they are the main source for the aquatic organisms that are present in the sea or in the fresh water. So they are also called as planktons. Okay. As we had discussed earlier, they are microscopic. So we can see few organisms here. There is no expenditure of any energy for the movement. Okay, so they float passively in the marine along with the water currents. Okay, in marine as well as fresh water, and most of these organisms are photosynthetic in nature. Diatoms, they have a thin cell wall, okay, overlapping with each other, and both the cell wall will fit together exactly like a soap case. Okay, we can see here like the soap case, there are two thin cell walls and there are the deposits of silica. and that's why they are undestructible. Because these diatoms have silica in their cell wall, they are undestructible, and therefore we see that they leave their cell walls over billions of years in the environment. And such areas where the diatoms are found are called as diatomaceous earth. The chief producers, okay, they are in the ocean. So therefore we see so much of deposition of these diatoms. Another thing regarding the diatoms are they are sensitive to the pollution. So they are pollution indicators. So definitely where the pollution is there, these diatoms won't be present. Okay. So since the cell walls are indestructible, the soil, the diatomaceous earth soil is gritty, okay, sandy in texture. They are very porous, and due to this quality, they are commercially used for polishing or filtration to clarify the syrups, oils, etc. Also the drugs. Okay, so they are widely used in commercial production. Second one is dinoflagellates. As the name says, dinoflagellate, that means they have two flagella in them. They are bunny and also they are photosynthetic in nature. Okay. Diatoms we had seen that they are fresh water as well as they are found in marine ecosystem. Dinoflagellates are the marine only. Okay. They have different colors. Say for example red, yellow, green, blue, etc. Okay. And that is because they have certain pigments present in them. Okay. So due to pigmentation they show different colors. Dinoflagellate will have the cell wall plate like structure. It will be little stiff. Okay. So this cell wall plate is also called a cellulosic plate. That means it is very stiff, and these plates are cellulosic in nature. Okay. There is some furrow which we can see here. In this furrow, there are two flagella that will be present. Okay. One is called as longitudinal flagella, which will arise vertically in the furrow, and the other one is called as transverse flagella, which will align at the horizontal way. There are some dinoflagellates which are having red pigment. Okay, these dinoflagellates are goniales. So wherever we see the sea which appear red in color, indicate that there are red dinoflagellates. Okay, they are highly poisonous and they will release certain toxins which are harmful for the organisms or fishes that are present in these ecosystems. Okay, so such areas we call it as red type. The third type is Euclinoids. These are the few species of Euclinoids. They are fresh water types. The Euclinoids, they devoid of the cell wall. So at place of cell wall, there is proteinaceous layer called as pellicle. Because of the presence of this layer, it helps these euglenoids to freely move, or they are very flexible for their movement. Okay. Here also there are two flagella. One is very short and another one is the longer. Okay. They are photosynthetic in nature and also holozoal. We should remember that these organisms, they have chlorophyll pigment. So, in presence of light, sunlight, they will carry out photosynthesis. But in absence of sunlight, they will act nutrition. So that is all about Protista algae. The slime molds are called to be fungal-like organisms that gave rise to fungus. Slime molds are saprophytic in nature. That means they take the nutrition from the dead organisms or organic matter, right? So they have heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So wherever there is the decayed material or fallen leaves or the wooden logs, they will start growing there. During the favorable condition, these slime molds multiply very fast and they start growing to several feet. So this condition is called as Plasmodium, wherein rapid growth of these organisms will take place. Under unfavorable condition, these organisms will get differentiated, or we can say they change themselves in such a way that they will form the fruiting bodies. Each fruiting bodies will have spores on them, okay? And they will have a true wall, and these organisms or the spores will be resistant to any adverse condition. And that is the reason for many years they can survive. Okay, so during the favorable condition, these spores will be transferred through air current and they will start growing. Okay, so that is about the slime molds. The next type are the protozoans. There are different types of protozoans which we see. All protozoans are heterotrophic in nature. So either they will act as predators or they will be parasitic in nature. These organisms are said to be the primitive relatives of animals which we had discussed earlier. So the four major groups of protozoa are celiates, as there is the presence of cilia, amoeboid, as they have amoeboid type of movement, as the pseudopodia are present or false feet are present in them, sporozoa which are non-flagellated, and flagellates are those organisms bearing flagella. Okay, so these are four major groups. The first one is amoeboid protozoan. They occur in the fresh water or they can be in the marine form. Okay, the organisms that are present in the marine ecosystem, they will have silica shells on their surface. They do not have any cell wall on them. Okay. The mode of nutrition will be the holozoic type, wherein the pseudopodia or false feet play a very important role. These pseudopodia will help in engulfing the solid food material inside them. Okay, and the digestion of these material will take place within their body. One of the example is an amoeba, which is parasitic in nature. So it is parasitic in human, giving rise to a disease called as amoebic dysentery. Okay, so there will be continuous loose motion. The second type is flagellated protozoans. As the name says, these organisms have flagella. These are free living in nature. One of the examples which is parasitic is trypanosoma. This trypanosoma are also called as boar body. Why? Because they have corkscrew type of motion. Okay? So therefore, the name is given as trypanosoma. They cause sleeping sickness. Sleeping sickness, it is the disturbed sleep in human. As these organisms are present in the blood stream. Okay. The next is ciliated protozoans. As the name says, they bear cilia. Example is Paramecia, and they are aquatic in nature. Due to the presence of cilia, they have active movement or locomotion. As we had discussed earlier, there are numerous thousands of cilia present all over the body, and the movement of these cilia will be in the coordinated method towards the one direction, and therefore the active movement of these organisms takes place. These organisms also have a cavity called as gullet. This gullet will take the food material from the external environment during the movement of these organisms. So while cilia helps in the movement, the water will pass along with the food material into the gullet, and this way this organism gets the food material. The next is sporozoans. One of the examples is malarial parasite Plasmodium. It is the name of the organism. Okay, so do not get confused with the Plasmodium which we had discussed earlier. There, the condition by which the growth of slime mold takes place is called as Plasmodium, which occur during favorable condition. Okay, whereas the Plasmodium or Plasmodium vivax is the malarial parasite. Okay. These organisms do not have flagella, so therefore they are non-motile. Okay. The infectious part of these organisms in their life cycle is the spores. Okay. So the mosquito is acting as a host along with the human. So the Plasmodium, to complete its life cycle, require two hosts. So when the Anopheles mosquito bites, these spores from the salivary glands of these mosquito will be transferred into the human body in the liver, where the multiplication of these spores will take place and it will be released in the RBCs. These spores will then form gametocytes, which will be again taken by the mosquito, and there the fusion of gametes will take place. That means asexual reproduction occurs in the human, whereas sexual reproduction will occur in the mosquito. Okay. So these spores, when they are formed, they are again transferred into the salivary gland from their gut, and therefore this way the malarial parasite is transferred from mosquito to human, okay, to complete its life cycle. So that was all about the slime molds and protozoans. Okay. So in next video we will discuss on kingdom fungi. Okay. I hope you all have understood